MP Tororo South County. Thank you. Good morning, Chair and members and our invited guests. My name is Lokwang Phillips Ilukol, Member of Parliament, Napore West Constituency, Karenga, and a member of this committee. You are welcome.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, colleagues and our guests. My name is Patrick Nsamba Oshabe. I represent the people of Kassanda County North. You're most welcome.
Chair, good morning, everyone. My name is Wamakuyu Mudimi Ignatius, Member of Parliament, Elgon County, member of the committee.
Staff?
Which interest? No, my interests were together with the PS in 9th Parliament, right?
Yes.
So, yeah. So
be quiet.
No, you can't force me.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Max Komakech. I'm the clerk to the committee.
Morning, Chair and honorable colleagues, members. My name is Ron Stephen, CID attached this committee.
We've not heard.
My name is Onyu Stephen.
Okay.
CID attached this committee.
Morning, Chair. Detective IP Vironji, CID attached committee.
Thank you, Chair and honorable members. Good morning, everyone. Ano Tumwebaze, Minister of Finance, Accountant General's Office attached to PAC.
Thank you, Chair. Morning, everyone. I'm Edison Karamaji, Committee Economist.
Thank you, Chair. Leseni Ismail, the Budget Officer.
Thank you, Chair and honorable members. Good morning, everyone. Called Punya Willie Salongo, Assistant Manager Parliamentary Liaison, Office of the Auditor General, attached to PAC. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. My name is Judith Naturinda from Office of the Auditor General.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. I'm Chichoncho Judith, Office of the Auditor General.
Yes, morning, Chair. My name is Asim John Bosco, Staff of Parliament attached to this committee.
Yes, team.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Abagire Vincent Waiswa, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Morning, Chair, members. I'm Nasamba Mbarak, Principal Accountant, Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Morning, Chair. Hope Nesiho, Senior Accountant, Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Morning, Madam Chair. My name is Wejura Shaban, Principal Internal Auditor, Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Morning, Chair and honorable members. My name is Stephen Chatirikira, Under Secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Good morning, Chair and honorable members. My name is Philip Mbatia Ayazika, Assistant Commissioner and Head of Human Resources, Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Good morning, Chair and honorable members. My name is Kabanda Peter, Assistant Commissioner, Finance and Planning, Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Good morning, Chair and members. My name is Agaba Milton Kafuruka, Senior Assistant Secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Morning. I'm Florence Mirembe, Senior Assistant Secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Good morning, Chair and honorable members. My name is Bernard Kanyoro, Senior Procurement Officer, Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Good morning, PS and your team. Honorable colleagues, good morning once again. We are here to have an interaction with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and we welcome you to Parliament of Uganda. We are neighbors. This is a committee for public accounts. We are here basically to execute a mandate in line to ensuring that you account for, number one, the office that you occupy on behalf of Ugandans. Number two, to also account for the funds that you received in the financial year 2024-2025. Aware of your mandate that is constitutional under Objective 28, which is foreign policy objectives. Just to read verbatim, Objective 28.1, the foreign policy of Uganda shall be based on the principles of 1, promotion of the national interest of Uganda, respect for international law and treaty obligations, peaceful coexistence and non-alignment, settlement of international disputes by peaceful means, and opposition to all forms of domination, racism, and other forms of oppression and exploitation. 2, Uganda shall actively participate in international and regional organizations that stand for peace and for well-being and progress of humanity. 3, the state shall promote regional and Pan-African culture, economic and political cooperation and integration. And we are aware that these form your core functions as you execute your mandate. And it's for that reason that you are allocated funds from the Consolidated Fund to give services to the people of the Republic of Uganda. Yes,
Madam Chair.
Yes, Honorable.
I'm sorry because the introduction, we started when I was there as a side trying to attend emergency, but I did not hear your name.
Now, you want me to be very predictable. You first hear the whole story, you will know how it ends. So, honorable colleagues and the PS this other side, that is how we do things in the Gen Z's way. You first give the introductory remarks, and later on the people know the person who's speaking to them. But for the sake of the benefit of colleagues this side, my name is Gorethi Namuga. I represent the people of Magola County. That is Sembabule District. I'm the deputy chair of the committee. The substantive chair is away. For reasons well known to you, he's in prison. And this happened after elections. So we need to pray for our colleague. Arising out of my introductory remarks, PS, you are aware that the diaspora is of the interest of every one of us, especially we, the representatives of the people. We have so many of our brothers and sisters employed in the diaspora. So I want you to give us a brief on how many Ugandans are in the diaspora. And you know, the last time you appeared before this committee, we had issues on handling of complaints that are raised from those in their diaspora. And we know preparation of those that travel is not part of your mandate. You share it with the Minister of Gender, but still it doesn't stop you from giving us the state and the improvements that have been done in that line, because that has been an area of complaint. Almost we've been seeing videos around. And number 2, they have been talking about taxing their income. Can you give us an update on how you tax the income of those in the diaspora? We shall not go into issues of what is happening in the diaspora because of sovereignty and these others. We shall restrict ourselves to matters of audit and not the other issues that are happening in our sister countries. But also you'll have to speak briefly to the state of our foreign missions, much as we shall have discussions later. But you need to give us a brief of how the missions are really operating. Lastly, you will also update us about the staffing levels of your entity. Yeah, that's all from me. Yes, Honorable Samba.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Wi-Fi, most welcome on the team. My concern, Chair, where the PS must update us or should update us is a matter related to Ugandans in the Middle East. Given the fact that all countries are giving advisory to their citizens, you must be aware about what is going on. All countries in the Middle East are engulfed in war. And whereas our people go there to do work not as specialists, our ministry must have a position And that position, especially in case things get worse, what happens to them? How do they get evacuated? Specifically, I would like to hear about Ugandans in Iran. How many are they, and how do they get evacuated? At the moment, they are students. There are those that went to do other works. Are we in communication, and are we in touch? Chair, I think that will be very important information for this committee. Thank you.
Honorable Basari, you are the one with you said you have an interest.
Yes, but that notwithstanding, the PS must be put under fire. Yes, the relationship notwithstanding. And I want to pick it from there. Chair, I want to understand from the PS position of Uganda with regard to the invasion of Iran by America and Israel, bearing in mind that Iran is a member of the non-aligned movement and Uganda is also a member of the non-aligned movement. What is our position as a country? Number two, Chair, I was recently in Iran, and the PS is aware. But up to now, we don't have an ambassador. Ever since Ambassador Muhammad Chisambira died, the embassy is lacking leadership. There are staff there who are competent, but the embassy has no leadership up to now. I want to understand what exactly is taking this long to have an ambassador, and we have candidates here. Honorable Angura there can work as an ambassador for Iran and others, but it's of bigger interest. Two, unrelatedly, Chair, Pakistan, which is one of the nuclear powers and a very big economy, we have no embassy in Pakistan. And it raises a very big concern. And you are talking about Ugandans. There are actually more Ugandans in Pakistan because education there is one of the cheapest around that area. That we don't have an embassy in one of the nuclear powers of the world and one of the biggest economies around is something that I think you need to interest ourselves into. And then also finally, and relatedly, to advise us whether it is now safe to fly to the Gulf countries. Because people are flying, they are finding their way. By the way, I'm aware of colleagues who are now in Saudi Arabia. I don't know how they got there, but they are there. Is it now safe? Can I go for Umrah tomorrow? PS. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Asman. PS, kindly respond. But as you do respond, also advise us on the most attractive countries to go to, just in case of for these of our sisters and brothers that are looking out for employment out there. Because everyone finds their way. This one is going to Iran, the other one is going to Egypt. Which is the most attractive country to go to, just in case of one is seeking for employment? And you also tell us about the scholarships that you have, we've got from your ministry, the number of scholarships that you have managed to bring for us in the line of education and these others. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair and honorable members, for the issues that have been raised. Madam Chair, the issue you raised initially was on the number of Ugandans in the diaspora. Madam Chair, we know that in some countries, like the UAE, we have approximately 100,000 Ugandans that are in the UAE. In Saudi Arabia, the number is almost 200,000. Qatar, around 50,000 Ugandans. South Africa has a very large number of Ugandans, but we don't have the exact figures.
At least give an estimate.
In South Africa, I think we have an estimate of around 150,000 Ugandans, or even more.
Okay.
In the US, there is a very, very big number of Ugandans, perhaps in excess of around 300,000. The UK also has, but these figures I'll verify and give an accurate number, Madam Chair, with your permission.
Okay.
The UK has a very large number as well, in excess of probably 400,000 Ugandans living in the UK, among others. Madam Chair, as you rightly put, when Ugandans travel, they travel independently. Some of them don't even notify the embassies. Having said that, all our embassies have diaspora activations, and the estimates I'm giving arise out of the diaspora engagements between our embassies and the Ugandan citizens that are living abroad. But allow me to give a comprehensive number of the diaspora in the various countries where we have our missions, but also where we don't have missions, but we know that Ugandans indeed are in those countries. Madam Chair, the second question was about the taxing of the income of members of the diaspora. It is true, Uganda Revenue Authority issued an advisory suggesting that they would be taxing members of the diaspora on their property. Last December, we did organize our annual diaspora event where members of the diaspora attended, and we invited the Uganda Revenue Authority to give an update or to provide information on what exactly they are going to be taxing. URA did make a presentation. It was detailed. The members of the diaspora asked questions. Some of them were convinced, some were not convinced. And we agreed that URA actually simplifies the information they had presented to make it very clear to members of the diaspora what exactly shall be taxed and how. That simplified information has not yet reached us, but Madam Chair, we shall give them a reminder to expedite it. Madam Chair, the other issue you raised was the state of our missions. And I can say, as the Honorable Asumani Baswahili has mentioned, we don't have a head of mission in Tehran. The same is the case in Nairobi, Ottawa, Canada, as well as Abuja. And His Excellency the President is aware, as you'll appreciate, Madam Chair.
Yes, kindly give details about those countries. How many are they? Where I don't have mission, where I don't have substantive.
Madam
rights?
Chair, I think there are 4.
Mm.
It is Tehran, Iran. It is Ottawa, Canada. It is Abuja, Nigeria, and Nairobi, Kenya.
Okay.
And actually, the President is very much aware that we don't have heads of mission there, but we have chargé d'affaires at the level of ambassador that are running the affairs of those missions. Having said that, we have moved some missions like the one in Tokyo from the premises where they were to a more decent place. We have renovated and we continue to renovate many of the missions, and we shall give a detailed status of the missions that have been renovated. We continue to construct some of them, others at the tail end, others just at the formative stages. And Madam Chair, all that detail I shall provide. In terms of our staffing levels, the ministry has a staffing level of around 350 members of staff. That's a composition of the members at headquarters as well as those in missions abroad. Missions abroad have around 150, and the rest at headquarters. And we have an approved staff structure by the Ministry of Public Service. It is dynamic in the sense that if we have any deployments that are done, we seek the approval of the Ministry of Public Service to update our structure. Madam Chair, if I move on to Ugandans in the Middle East and the advisories that have been issued by many countries, including we here in Kampala. As we know, the situation is fluid to the extent that the entire airspace, more or less, has been closed, and therefore flights are not operating. We have engaged the leadership. The leadership there has been proactive. Yesterday, in the last 2 days in the UAE, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs over the United Arab Emirates has engaged all the entire diplomatic corps and given them an update on the status of what is happening in their country. And they've advised what the foreign citizens as well as their citizens need to do. And the advice they've given is restriction of movements, and perhaps staying indoor. Our missions, both missions in Qatar, Saudi Arabia, as well as Abu Dhabi, were advised by authorities to operate from home, and that's what they're doing at the moment. These embassies have reached out to the Ghanaian leaders because they have communities, the communities have leadership, and issued written guidance to what our members of the diaspora need to do, and also given contact numbers for them to contact. Having said that, Madam Chair and members, we have only had one incident of a Ugandan who was hit by some debris in the UAE, and he's being attended to by our embassy. In respect to Ugandans in Tehran, Madam Chair, as you know, Iran has had sanctions for the longest time, so I can argue that it's not been very or extremely attractive for Ugandans to go and seek greener pastures in Tehran. Having said that, the government of Iran has been offering study opportunities in sciences to our Ugandans. And as a result, we had 43 Ugandans who are studying in universities at different levels, bachelor's and master's, that we know and have been in touch with our embassy on a regular basis. You recall that in June, when a similar incident happened, our embassy managed to repatriate or evacuate the Ugandan students. Now, on that occasion, there were indeed some Ugandans that were known to our embassy. They were contacted and asked whether we would evacuate them as well, but they clearly advised the embassy that they will take care of their own affairs. Now, in this particular incident, indeed, as soon as the bombing started, our mission in Tehran coordinated with our embassy in Ankara and moved all the 43 students to Turkey. Moved them to Turkey. They spent 2 nights in Turkey, and as we speak, they are airborne, returning to Uganda. They will arrive later today. All the 43 students.
Okay.
In respect to not having an embassy in Pakistan, Madam Chair, as you'll appreciate, we have 38 missions, and these missions, by and large, operate in a manner that if you have, for instance, our embassy in Tanzania is also accredited to Zambia. Our embassy in Kenya is also accredited to the Seychelles, and that's really on account of being frugal and because we can't be everywhere. But I take the point that Pakistan should be a country of interest, they're nuclear power, and we shall make that point to Cabinet to see that perhaps we have a presence in Pakistan, but that may mean a trade-off whereby we we retire one embassy and open one in Pakistan. That's a possibility. But otherwise, we shall be here in Parliament seeking for funding for an extra embassy, and we don't know how successful we shall be. Madam Chair, whether it is safe to travel to the Gulf, Madam Chair, the fact that the airspace is closed, I would want to say that we can hold on any travel without saying whether it is safe or not. But I'd propose that we suspend our travel until it's very clear that the airspace is opened. Madam Chair, in terms of where the most opportunities exist, this one varies, Madam Chair. There is a lot of employment opportunities in the Middle East, but that's low-level employment. It's externalized labor for helpers, house helpers, and so on. But there are countries such as Vienna, Canada, that are looking for professional specialized employment. Some of these are nurses, but at the same time, these countries have a duty to ensure that they do not deplete the country, like Uganda, of their professional workforce. I think it's part of their regulations, that in attracting externalized labor in specialized areas, they do not compromise these countries. So they have quotas. So we are working with the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development to see that we negotiate and conclude bilateral labor agreements for us to be able to take advantage of the opportunities that reside in countries such as Austria and Canada. Having said that, Madam Chair, there are so many Ugandans who are doing professional employment in countries like Saudi Arabia. There's a very big number. They're in the oil and gas sector, they're in the financial services, and we have a list of those. We can share it with the committee, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, last one was on scholarships. I don't have the numbers, but we can dig into the numbers. We can get the numbers from our consular department. Madam Chair, but I just want to emphasize that every scholarship opportunity that the ministry receives, we pass it on to the scholarships committee in the Ministry of Education and Sports. They are the ones that administer the scholarships that you are presented to our country. I beg to submit, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Madam
Thank
Chair.
you, Mr. A moment. A moment is, what didn't he respond to?
Madam Chair.
Honorable Shaba, a moment.
Chair, I asked the PS to tell us the position of Uganda on the conflict in Iran. And the chair, I'm the chairperson of the Uganda-Iran Parliamentary Friendship Committee. And I asked that question from that perspective. Where do we stand as a country on that war? But also, secondly, Chair, the students in Iran, when there was an offer to return in June, when there was a conflict, the universities and the government of Iran told them that on coming back, they will be able to sponsor themselves. So they reached out to our embassy and said whether it would be possible for the government of Uganda to step in. And the government said they were unable. The government said it was unable. That's why some students didn't come back. It is true the embassy contacted them. Those who were in Kum, Isfahan, they were contacted. But they said when we go back to Uganda, we will not be able to get back to Iran. And indeed, those who came in June are here. They've not had an opportunity to go back because their scholarships were actually cancelled. So when there is this crisis, actually the universities will tell students, those who are ready to stay, but when they come back, they should be able to support themselves. And I think maybe as parliament, but also as government, I mean executive, it's important to understand the plight, because people were asking why students were not ready to come back. It was fear of losing scholarships, and it is a reality. So I also thought that maybe perhaps that could be information that you could share with us if it is within your knowledge.
Yes, Honorable Shabe.
Chair, thank you very much. I want to appreciate PS for ably articulating what they are doing about the students. But he made a statement that Iran was not very attractive to Ugandans. I really doubt that is possible. And I would suggest that you yourself, you said there are many you don't know who are out there. But in such a moment, they remain Ugandans. So as you're thinking about evacuation plans, and think about those that you don't know but they are there. Trust Ugandans, they are there. Because every day they go out to look for greener pastures. So just writing them off to say we are only dealing with students, PS, I really want to think we can do better than that. Let us offer that, as a government of Uganda, if you're there, and we don't know that you're there, kindly, if you need our support, we are located at so that they can look for, given the fact that we don't have an embassy there, they can still be advised that you can be evacuated if you contacted us in this and such a manner. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Lokori, then we shall have Honorable
Honorable Lokwang.
Lokwang.
Yes. Thank you, Chair.
All the same, Karamoja is happy to have you here.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I would like to ask the PS to inform the country that, what is the status of Ugandan property outside which are under threat, and what step are you taking to ensure that our property is properly secured? Because I happen to go to Netherlands, we have our land. I was also in many other places. Yes? Can I get that?
Yes, Honorable Quiz. Honorable Quizera, yes.
Chairperson, thank you very much. Mine is a very simple issue to be clarified about. When you are Minister of Foreign Affairs, there are some instruments you use to manage, not guesswork. You must be having a written foreign policy that all members of parliament know, all those who want to travel out know. All of these countries which want to deal with you, they must know your foreign policy. And you reduce a number of questions like what Wasarwa is asking. So can we be privileged to have a copy of your foreign policy, which is written? I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Members. Honorable Members, I would like to commend Foreign Affairs. Sometime back, we assisted when we reached out to you on some of our voters who were suffering in the diaspora. That was the case of Nambarira Prosi, the one that you handled. Most of you saw that lady that went viral on social media. We worked closely with Foreign Affairs and we assisted. However, it doesn't mean that everyone must run Foreign Affairs. We must have a deliberate way of helping Ugandans. That kind of public outcry, somebody must go to social media first to be helped. And after that incident, most of them were reaching out to me. Honorable Namuga, I also have a person here. I also have somebody who has died. Now, you have a lot to explain to this committee in regard to these companies that register with the Ministry of Gender. Thereafter, their licenses expire, but they have an obligation. They have contracts with our Ugandans who have gone for greener pastures. So somebody dies. The family has to incur the whole cost. Transporting a body close to 16 million Ugandan shillings. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. PS, we must have a deliberate way of helping Ugandans who are in the diaspora. It shouldn't be for themselves, and to negotiate better for them. Number two, you said URA is still making a comparative analysis and to communicate better on the taxes that should be levied. So I want to inquire from you. you want to mean that as of now, there is no tax in regard to either the money, the income that they get. So you want to tell us that, because many of them were complaining that their salaries are taxed. So you need to advise, is there a tax on whether assets, you said assets not yet clear, but come out clear on the issue of their salaries. If they are taxed, it should be known so that people know what to do. You told us about these missions, Iran, Ottawa, Canada, Abuja, Nairobi, these that don't have heads of missions. You are going to tell us one by one how many years they have spent without heads of missions. Reason, there is a high rate of unemployment in this country. We find people in acting capacity. You are substantive in a certain position, then acting for the other. You are depriving other Ugandans employment. So we are going to give us details of for how many years these entities have remained without substantive heads of missions. You talked about your staffing levels of 350, but you did not come out clear on the structure. How many staff are you supposed to be having as per the approved structure? We want to thank you for coming in to execute your mandate in regard to the 43 Ugandans. But as Honorable Shabe said, other Ugandans also need to be helped. Lastly is about the issue of the scholarship committee in the Ministry of Education. We have just interfaced with the Ministry of Education, but we took note that the country called Uganda has no consolidated scholarship policy. They are scattered everywhere. So you need to follow up and see whether you safely land when you take whatever scholarships you have in the Ministry of Education. That is a matter that has stayed unsorted for quite some years. So clarify on those. For honorable colleagues who have just come in, kindly introduce yourselves.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, everyone. My name is Richard Wanda, Member of Parliament for Vungoho Central and member of this committee.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I'm Choma Zava, MP, Ibanda North, and a member of this committee.
Thank you. And as you do respond on these details of for how long these embassies have remained without heads of missions, you are also going to give us a brief on the impact and the consequences we have suffered out of failure to have substantive heads of missions in these countries. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Allow me, Madam Chair and honorable members, to clarify what the Honorable Oshabe raised. Indeed, it is not true that we have closed our evacuation in Tehran or in Iran in general. We have communicated. Of course, we have local staff at the embassy. We have advised any Ugandans that may need to be evacuated to reach out to some contacts that we have provided. And we are open to assist any Ugandan who is still in Tehran to return home. Madam Chair, on the ones that returned, indeed, the 43, the bulk of the 43 that are returning, that are on their way back, are those individuals that were evacuated in June. In fact, some honorable members of parliament reached out yesterday, and the very members who reached out in June to say that their relatives or their constituents were in Tehran and they needed assistance. So it's part and parcel of the same team that returned. But it's also true, Madam Chair, as you'll appreciate, this is a matter of emergency, and it's not possible that any government department would have appropriated resources to send those people back after an incident such as that one. So it is true, there was no support that was offered for them to return to school thereafter, but for many of them, their families facilitated their return to the whatever. Now, the issue of those in the university in Qom, they have a team leader. That team leader advised us he was married there, and therefore he can't move with his family. And I'm sure the Honorable Basalirwa is aware. And he was our contact. So he told us he cannot move with his family. He would rather stay there. And that disabled us. We couldn't take any further action. Now, on the issue of Uganda's position on the invasion, Madam Chair, as you'll appreciate, and honorable members, we chair the non-aligned movement. At least we are still chairs up to the end of this year. We shall hand over in January next year. Now within that scope or that framework, we have a consultative process as the chair. And consultations are ongoing in all our NAM chapters, namely New York, Geneva, and Brussels, on a statement that we as chair shall issue. Madam Chair, if I gave the position of Uganda, it would be preempting the consultative process that is ongoing, for which you are given a responsibility to chair and preside, and what we present should be something that is agreed. It is also true that Uganda is a sovereign and therefore should have its own independent views on that matter. We have written to the President with some options, and as you'll appreciate, he's the chief diplomat. I don't have the mandate to pronounce Uganda's position as of now, until I am guided.
So the fact that the other one is a chief diplomat, what is your title in line to diplomacy?
I'm a technocrat.
Okay,
who
let's
gets
proceed.
political leadership. So, Madam Chair, that is on that particular matter. Now, Madam Chair, on the issue of properties, as you'll appreciate, the law is very clear that all property owned by the entire government, the land titles should reside with Uganda Land Commission. For aspect of ownership, we have all our land titles, and our land titles are being deposited with the Uganda Land Commission. Now, in terms of safety of the property that we have, I must say that we occupy 90% of the property that we have, to the extent that our embassies are in that property, so we have occupation. Now, there are a couple of properties where we have land, like Ethiopia, but we are working on design plans to ensure that construction happens in Ethiopia. The land in Brussels that was empty is now being developed. We are constructing the residence of the head of mission in that particular land. And Madam Chair, I don't know whether the Honorable Kwang said Netherlands or Brussels, but I think it's Brussels where we had empty land and it's being developed.
Yeah, I was meaning the Benelux countries anyway. The Benelux countries.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the land that we have is in Brussels.
That's
So that one
exactly
is
what I
being,
was saying.
yes, that one is being developed. Madam Chair, in respect to a written foreign policy, Madam Chair, we have stated in the past, as you'll appreciate, all laws, rather all policies must go through a stakeholder consultation process. And the ministry prepared a draft, I think in 2018, the initial one, and the last layer of consultation was actually the president, because this is foreign policy. And the ministers had a meeting with His Excellency the President, and he guided that he will get back to us as a ministry, and we still wait. We've had discussions with the HE on the foreign policy, but even in the absence of a written policy, Madam Chair, you cited the Constitution and its provisions. Because the truth is, what we did with the policy, the draft that we have, is we picked exactly the provisions in the Constitution and expounded on those. Because to do otherwise would be to offend the Constitution. So the foreign policy objectives that are outlined in the Constitution is exactly the basis of which we annualize our policy through the ministerial policy statements that we present to Parliament for approval. Madam Chair, you raised a very important point about the challenges Ugandans are facing in as far as externalization of labor is concerned. It's a very big concern for us because our colleagues in gender register these companies, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has the burden of offering consular services with minimal resources, but to a big number of Ugandans who are out there externalized, in most cases not well prepared. They are trained for 2 weeks, and then they take them to work in homes, largely as maids, and many of them have had very, very many challenges and significant challenges, some of them leading to mental seizures. And Madam Chair, if we may, as the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we think we need a law on externalization of labor. It is high time we consider a law that really articulates how externalization of labor is done. Because it's true, Ugandans are sent to work without any safeguard, and they are under the mercy of the people they are working for to take care of their welfare. So the companies here earn their money, and once they earn the money of externalizing, they are done with the individual. There are many that have died. We keep returning bodies. There are many that we house in Saudi Arabia. So the situation is not good in as far as externalized labor is concerned. Madam Chair, in respect to the tax that URA was proposing on property and assets abroad, indeed, the members of the diaspora made a point that that would be double taxation. We already pay taxes in the countries where we are. Our salaries are taxed already in those countries. So if we return our funds as assets, and then you subject them to tax, or you tax our property the other side, that would be double taxation. And that's why we insisted that the ministry, rather the Uganda Revenue Authority, gives us a simplified text of what exactly they said they will be taxing. And Madam Chair, allow us to follow up as fast as possible and make sure that this is provided and we disseminate it, and we shall share that with the committee. Madam Chair, on the scholarship policy, we sit on the committee. It is true, I've not seen any policy on the scholarships. And I think our colleagues in the Ministry of Education should take this up. Since we sit on the committee, we shall raise it with them. Lastly, Madam Chair, on the number of years these missions have not had heads of mission, I think for Abuja, it's around 8 months, but I stand to be corrected by colleagues. For Tehran, it's a year, 2 years. For Nairobi, it's also around 2 years. Huh?
Is more.
4 years.
Nairobi is more.
The late Galiwango died, I know it was in January, around 17th January, 2020, 23, I think. 23. Okay, 3 years. And then Ottawa is less than a year. Ottawa is less than a year because...
then Canada?
Ottawa, Canada, that's Canada. Okay. Less than a year. Madam Chair.
What's the impact of this to the country?
Madam Chair, we have not quantified the impact, but allow me to say, Madam Chair, that all the operations of the mission as they should be, because we have international law, the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations. The Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations provides that if the head of mission is away, there shall be a CDA who is recognized by that country as someone leading the mission. And what we have done, Madam Chair, is to ensure that all these embassies, even if they had only one person at the level of ambassador, we deployed someone at the level of ambassador. They are not head of mission, substantive, but they are the level ambassador, and they are taking care of these 4 missions.
Yes, let's get serious.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Honorable Mudimbi.
Madam Chair, PS indicated that in Tokyo, they moved to a new location. In Cairo, you know where our embassy is, you know the location where it is exactly. And there was an offer by the government of Egypt to relocate that to the new Cairo. How far have you gone with the arrangement?
Yes, Honorable Angula.
Madam Chair, on a similar note, even in Burundi, there are plans to relocate. How far have you also gone with that?
Honorable Wanda.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Madam Chair, in Tanzania, we had land that was at the verge of being lost. How far with the construction on that? And then secondly, Madam Chair, the laws of taxation, I think, are comprehensive enough. I think thinking of formulating another law on the taxation of the assets of the people abroad would be creating a redundant law. The laws are very clear. Maybe we may have to work with the Committee of Finance and URI, because at least I've been in taxation for over 20 years now. Every aspect of taxation of such incomes is covered. If you're earning a salary and it pays tax where you earned it from, it is exonerated from tax here, because you have already paid the tax on it. And if you bring it here and spend it, and you have, the challenge is that those people do not file returns. It's a requirement for every Ugandan to file a return. So if you have not filed a return, then URI will think this is income you've earned and he has not paid tax. But if it is from employment income specifically, then you need to show that you paid the tax on it, and URI will not tax it. If it is from business income, still you will show that you paid the tax. If you didn't pay tax, then you have got to pay tax. If you paid some tax, then the difference of what you should have paid if you earned it from here is what you would pay. So in my view, that one will have to work closely with the Committee of Finance and the and the URI to see what the matter is. But I know that the tax is covered by our laws.
Okay, thank you, Honorable. Emile, as you introduce yourself, you look, did I see your microphone on?
No, thank you, Chair, and good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Emile Kugonza, Member of Parliament for Buyanja East County in Kibale District, and a member of this committee. For now, I have no submission.
And you came unopposed, and it belongs to a party that promotes the parish development model that you also have a pillar to attend it to. So those are the details for you to understand the gentleman better. However, PS, you said you could not quantify the impact of our failure to have substantive heads of missions. I was about to give you a calculator so that you could quantify better. Otherwise, it's, honorable colleagues, this is very unfair to a country. 3 years, Nairobi here. let's be, you know, let's be a little realistic. The PS Vajiro we know ought to have come out clear on this. Because, you know, you cannot just keep, I was going to use something, but you can't just keep bypassing a problem. You cannot say we've remained 3 years without a substantive head of mission in Nairobi. And you say, Honorable Chair, I cannot quantify this. Tell us the impact. Because it looks as if you want to inform the committee that, no, we can even keep without head of missions and business is normal, as usual. So we cannot take it as light as is. When we don't have head of missions, substantive, there is a lot to lose as a country. So we can't just sweep it under the carpet. So please, when you come to these committees and we tell you to come out open on some of these issues and we see how best we can help the country progress in that area, you shouldn't just bypass for the sake of covering up. So they are going to give you a calculator to quantify the impact of failure to have these heads of missions in these so strategic countries. Otherwise, I want to thank you for responding to these questions. But for the impact, you ought to have come out. You ought to have been smarter than that. I know you are trying to cover up, but we want to have these heads of missions. Colleagues, we are crying for unemployment in this country. There is a wage, but I mean, are you reserving? Do you want to comply to a reservation scheme? Do you have a reservation scheme? Somebody is somewhere and you are reserving this for them. They are still studying and it is a requirement. So when they finish, they take up. It is being unfair to us as a country. And you know the consequences. You have missions that are already understaffed. Now you say, I'm comfortable. Even if I don't have a head of mission, I have Miwajire, I have nothing to lose. That's what you are telling us, that you can keep 3 years without heads of missions and the country is, you know, it is okay, all is okay. It's business as usual. That's being unfair to us. So, honorable colleagues, arising out of that, kindly allow us go to 1.4, assessment of service delivery, directly before we forget the history that PS has spoken to. And in, yes, honorable.
Issue of Cairo.
Oh, he had something. Kindly respond. Sorry, honorable colleagues, kindly respond.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I'm aware that the heads of missions for these embassies without substantive heads is being concluded. But I didn't want to say that because I would be asked a timeline which I have no control over. But I know that the heads of mission of those is being concluded and they will be appointed sooner than later. Madam Chair, on Cairo, it is true we are not in an entirely good location, but we have not moved to a new location largely because Egypt moved their capital to what they now call the new capital, administrative capital. So we are going to be required to move from Cairo to the new Cairo, and that is the plan that we have, that we go and acquire a property in the new Cairo. So we've not moved from where we are right now.
Yes, they had given you an offer. They had allocated you land, right?
And it is soon expiring. Honorable colleagues, we are in Cairo, but it's an embarrassment to a country like Uganda. First of all, the premise is dilapidated. Number two, honorable colleagues, on the history of the premises or the infrastructure that we do occupy in Cairo, we failed to parent to somebody where the mission was staying for some time. And as a way of getting rid of us, the person said, let me buy for you a structure so that you leave my premises. That is how we acquired that property. But on top of that, you have failed to find yourself space somewhere to access. We are just set up to, you fail to parent, somebody says, no, I can no longer keep with you. Let me, have a structure. So I think we need, and at the time we went there, they were like, our offer is about to expire. Because, honorable colleagues, all other missions had moved. All other missions had moved, save for Uganda. All other missions moved. It's only Uganda that is staying in that slum, that so-called, it is a very, we are suffering serious diplomatic embarrassment. So, Honorable Mudimi, thanks for raising that. Chief should take it up. And they said Uganda has no money. And I don't know what we are going to do in case the other property is taken by somebody else. I don't know how we shall find our space. Otherwise, our offer seemed to be expiring soon. The time we went there, the staff informed us. Other missions had moved. Kenya had moved, also Rwanda had moved, but it's only Uganda that had stayed in that slum, in the old Cairo.
Yes,
Let's go to the matters of audit. That is the fact. Do you have anything to say?
Well, Madam Chair, I just wanted to give clarity.
Also, at the Burundi, that movement
Yes.
is actually similar.
Similar to Burundi?
Yes.
Madam Chair, the offer in Cairo is for us to procure. So there is a diplomatic zone that has been assigned to all embassies. And the idea was that we procure land and we construct. But Madam Chair, we have learned with experience that in some instances it's better off to buy a ready property that can be utilized rather than go into the rigors of construction. So we had preferred that we identify a property in New Cairo. We've instructed our team there, and we pursue procurement of a ready property. But otherwise, this is land that we've been given, and we must buy the land. And if you look at the cost of the land alone, it's extremely exorbitant, because they're selling a square meter. I don't remember the figures quite well, but each square meter is around something US dollars, which we thought we are better off buying a property as opposed to something like that. You can get a property for 10 million US dollars instead of deploying that money just on land and then spend another 10 million US dollars constructing a property. So that's...
Will the property be in that diplomatic zone that we are located, or you will find somewhere else?
Madam Chair, what happens in all countries, just like here, Nakasero is the accredited areas. Here we accredit in Nakasero, Kololo, and some other areas, Naguru, where diplomatic missions can reside, and the center here in Kampala. So all countries, they don't stick to one zone. So they demarcate and assign, this is okay, this is okay. You can't be in Wandegea, but you can be in Nakasero. You can't be in Kamocha, you can be in Kololo, something like that.
You can be in Chadondo, not Kavule.
Well, yeah.
So, Honorable, Honorable colleagues, we got 1.4, assessment of service delivery of this very entity. The assessment of the entity's efficiency in service delivery. We come to table 5. Table 5, the auditor undertook procedures to ascertain the level of service delivery through performance of the ministry's core mandate and noted the following. The reason as to why we came here first is because the same issues that were being raised are part of this. Number one, Uganda's foreign policy document prepared. The auditor noted that at the time of the audit, the ministry had conducted a regulatory impact assessment and a draft RI report was in place. However, a comprehensive foreign policy document had not been finalized. You had kindly somehow responded on this, but how do you take 10 years to prepare a document? In any case, do you need this foreign policy or not? Because practically, PS, how can we take 10 years? You said since 2018 to date, people are still drafting. What is so special with this draft? You said in your presentation that what we are including is just, we just draw facts from the Constitution and finalize on the policy. So can that drafting take 10 years and more?
Madam Chair, we have what we are confident is a good draft. But as I said, we have that last layer of consultation, which is with HE, the President, the Chief Diplomat, so that we finalize. In any case, it will go back to Cabinet chaired by HE. And for a matter where he has a significant and substantial say, we can't take it to Cabinet without passing it off him. And we have a good updated document. Madam Chair, if you allow, we shall share what we have prepared as a comprehensive draft foreign policy for this country.
Yes, Honorable Taiwa.
No, Chair, your question is not answered. I think you asked, does it take 10 years to have a foreign policy in place, whether chaired by the chief diplomat or cabinet or
It doesn't take 10 years.
So where is the problem?
And do you need it? Because we've stayed all along without it. Do we need it?
But, Madam Chair, like I said, PS has been here for some time back. But you recall that that time when we were here, that issue, that was the issue which members were raising, even the reports, lack of foreign policy. If you can recall, while you were here, before you had gone that side, now you went again. My brother, you recall us.
So, PS, you don't have a foreign policy, no labor externalization policy when it's for gender, but still, these are sister documents. They all facilitate foreign operations. When I came here in the morning, I told you, sir, when somebody learned that we are going to interface with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the person told me that tell them that they are no longer Ministry of Foreign Affairs, they are a Ministry of Foreign Affairs, falling with your affairs. But we don't want to take that direction. But you know that public perception is very important in regard to offer of services, because we all do whatever we do in the interest of the country. So, and to the satisfaction of our clients. That's why you have your client charters. So I think we need to see how best we can expedite some of these documents. We look to be unserious. The one would ask if we've been here for all that long without a policy and we've been operating. Do we need it? So it raises so many questions. Do we put documents in place for a sake? Are they required? You know, is it because it's a standard? So PS, hopefully, let's have this in place.
But Madam Chair, maybe I want PS to help us. Normally, when we receive people from other countries, the first set of documents they ask is like this one. Now, how I've been handling this? They ask you for a foreign policy.
It gives the constitution.
What did you give them to? And is it satisfactory to them?
Madam Chair, as you'll appreciate, we have a number of instruments that we use to implement our foreign policy. Some are national, others are regional, others are international. So we have the conventions and treaties that we adhere to. We have regional instruments from the African Union, the East African Community that we utilize, and then of course domestically we have the Constitution that we follow. Madam Chair, we are going to work with the institution of Parliament, and I'm confident that we work with the institution of Parliament, the Speaker's office specifically, we shall be in position to conclude this foreign policy. I think that's the intervention we are going to take.
Please do, for the sake of, good governance, as simple as that. Because if you really talk about these alternatives, if the alternatives can serve the purpose, then let's do away with the whole, the comprehensive policy if the alternatives can serve the purpose. So the fact that it comes every financial, and this has become a recurrent matter. Every time we talk about a foreign policy, every time, so kindly, let's not have this in the next audit. Hope you'll handle it. Alignment of the ministry's structure. The ministry's current structure was last reviewed in 2015. However, the structure still poses coordination and duplication challenges, especially in aligning the reporting from missions abroad. A task force was established to address these issues, but as of the time of audit, no verifiable progress was available. This could hinder efficient service delivery. Absence of a formal foreign policy document this was answered, but let's come back to the alignment. of the ministry structure. Can you handle the current challenges if your structure still serves the analog space?
Madam Chair, it's true the structure was reviewed in 2015. We set up a task force to review. We have the report of the task force, and the process has been ongoing, but we're hoping to conclude it before the end of this financial year. I'll ask the head of HR to throw more light on that.
And for clarity, this is a salary structure, isn't it? A staff structure, not salary staff.
Yes, Chair. And through PS, the review of the establishment is going on to align it, because initially we had a geographical structure, and when the review was done in 2015, there was a paradigm shift to a functional structure, thematic. So now what is happening is simply to align the mission structures to respond in terms of reporting lines to the headquarter structure. But also it involves still reviewing the functional, doing a functional and workload analysis to determine the actual requirements in terms of staff and eliminate redundancy. And this is in the context of RAPEX, so that we optimize on the resources. So the review is ongoing, but it will be concluded, like PS has said, before the close of the financial. And this takes also into account the local staff establishments in missions abroad.
What's the current structure in terms of numbers?
The number is 493 in the total. And the segregation in the numbers for that is in total, both at the mission and at headquarters.
So what's your percentage staffing?
The percentage staffing is at approximately 70.
So PS, as your staff was responding, he said this is simply to align, simply to align. For him, he doesn't think there is a serious implication on this. You know, the reason as to why restructuring takes place is to suit the current, because situations change. So that means the current structure, to some extent, is redundant. It can be serving a purpose, but somewhere, somehow, there is redundancies. There is a service that would be needed, but no staff for that very service. So, PS, let's expedite. These are not simple things. What I've realized from this ministry, for you think documents are put in place for the sake. That's why you say simply, that is simply this. It is not as simple as we may think. Some of these facts have serious implications to the operations of your mandate. Technology changes, so many things change. So we should also be seen to be dynamic. So, Mr. PS, you are a permanent secretary for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. But if you are foreign and you behave local, things will be different. Because
Madam Chair, also the timing, something which you've done for last 10 years. How do you measure that one? Last 10 years, since 2015. Last 10 years. You're on the same road.
Madam Chair, can I just give clarity and put things into context? The Ministry of Foreign Affairs had a structure that was geographical. For instance, we had a department called Africa. We had a department called Europe. We had a department called the Middle East and North Africa, among others. Now, in 2015, we recognized that structure does not serve much purpose. So the ministry opted for a functional structure. And indeed, at the time, as diplomacy is, we were moving away from the traditional diplomacy to economic and commercial diplomacy. And as such, the departments were re-engineered to, for instance, international economic cooperation, regional economic cooperation, international political cooperation, such that we deal with the functions rather than region, because in any case, those functions were all over the regions. So that structure change still serves us up to today. However, what was not done, I think what the head of HR was saying, is that that alignment has not been completed in as far as the missions or the embassies are concerned, and that's what we are completing.
Okay. Honorable colleagues, we go to item 1.5, monitoring and evaluation. The auditor noted that the ministry does not have a mechanism and dedicated staff to undertake M&E. This was attributed to lack of established M&E. So you lack a structured mechanism to track progress, assess performance, and inform timely decision-making on an annual basis. Why don't you have an M&E plan? Why don't you have M&E staff?
Madam Chair, at the time of the audit, that was the case, but that has since changed. The Office of the Prime Minister has since deployed an M&E officer to the ministry, and I beg to lay a letter on table where one Nanteze Eve, Senior Monitoring and Evaluation Officer, who was at the Ministry of Defense and Veteran Affairs, has since been transferred to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs as a Monitoring and Evaluation Officer. Madam Chair, I beg to lay.
Thank you, honorable colleagues. I think we can proceed. We are going to 1.6, cross-cutting issues. Organization structure. You have, the auditor notes that you have an inappropriate foreign mission structure, where all your missions have the same structure. All missions, whether you are in Ottawa, whether you are in New York, whether you are in Nairobi, whether you are in Mombasa, they all have the same structure. What's your take on that?
Madam Chair, it is not practically possible that we can have the same structure, and I'll explain why. In the Middle East, we need translators for Arabic. In China, we need a translator for Chinese, but in English-speaking countries, we don't need any translator. And Madam Chair, indeed, we noted that observation, and as we state, we are open to review the structure, but we have an approved structure by the Ministry of Public Service that we implement across the missions. And Madam Chair, as you'll appreciate, we have missions such as New York. New York is a very busy multilateral station. I think that's where we have the most number of diplomats. We have around 10. In Washington, D.C., which is also in America, we have, I think, around 5 diplomats. In Mombasa, which you've just mentioned, we have, I think, 3 diplomats in Mombasa. Madam Chair, the structures differ. They are not uniform as such. But also, as I said earlier, we get local staff based on the needs. Where you need translation, you need a translator, among others, Madam Chair.
We proceed to absence of local structure. The auditor noted that you lack an approved structure. Lack of an approved structure has led to inappropriate recruitment, budget distortion, and has caused conflict between the head of mission and accounting officers, which constrained service delivery. For here, every head of mission recruits for the local structure. They recruit according to their own assessment. So there is no clear structure for the local staff.
Madam Chair, thank you very much. We took the observation of the auditors, and on account of that, we sent to the, first of all, we wrote 2 letters to the missions. One is to adhere to the local recruitment guidelines, which are provided for in the Uganda Public Standing Orders, but also to request that all missions submit their local staff requirements. Now, as we speak, I think a majority of the missions have forwarded their structures. We're going to analyze them, and actually when they submitted we noted that in some cases there are redundancies. And these redundancies have been caused by recruitment out of the approved process. For clarity, no head of mission should recruit a local staff without concurrence of the responsible officer, who is the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs. A number of them were recruiting without adhering to this particular provision. So we have sent communication to the missions, one, to submit the local staff requirements so that we know them and assess them and guide them. And then the other one was to guide them to adhere to the local staff recruitment guidelines. And we outlined, one, that the process is that they must have a structure first and foremost. They must declare the vacancy, obtain approval from the responsible officer, advertise, constitute a panel to interview the candidates, and then appoint the successful candidate on condition that they have the funds to pay for these local staff. Madam Chair, I beg to display these two documents.
Honorable members, if there is, if he has explained very well, can we proceed to? We take note of the unclear guidelines for appointment of local staff. It's the same thing. You don't have, it's part of what you've submitted. Then we have inadequate procedures for disciplining staff. The auditor notes that some missions had procedures for disciplining staff outlined in the appointment letters, whereas some did not have any procedures at all. The local contract staff are not aware of the do's and don'ts. In addition, there are no procedures to follow in any disciplinary process. As a result, they are easily victimized in the extreme cases, dismissed without following any procedure. Inadequate procedures may lead to lack of transparency in the disciplinary process and non-compliance with the principles of natural justice, consequently leading to high legal costs to the mission and denting the country's image that the missions are trying to promote. Why don't we have a standard disciplinary process for staff?
Madam Chair, the local staff, as you'll appreciate, draw their salaries from the consolidated fund. Parliament appropriates money for these local staff. And for everybody who draws salary from the local staff, rather from the consolidated fund, they are subject to the Uganda Public Standing Orders. It is elaborate on how disciplinary issues are handled, and indeed that's why the embassy premises are invaluable, because when you're there, wherever we have an embassy, that is Uganda. So the laws of Uganda apply.
Okay, education allowances. That is 1.6. Education allowance is paid to a public officer posted at a mission to facilitate the public officer to meet the extra expenses incurred on the children's education as a result of his or her posting abroad. The assumption was education costs abroad are higher than the local costs. But it's noted that even if somebody is in, say, Ottawa, but has children in Uganda, you give them, you give them the education allowance, whether children are this side or the other side. What is the procedure? How do you manage your education allowances?
Madam Chair, the standing orders are very clear that, first of all, for the funds to be paid, the missions must deposit with headquarters the children that are out with the parents or the foreign service officers. By and large, we have a number of those on file, but it is true, it appears some missions were abusing that provision. Again, Madam Chair, we've written to all heads of missions and accounting officers, guiding based on the audit recommendation on the payment of education allowance to foreign service officers posted abroad. And in this letter, we are referring them to section E, capital E, dash small e, 17 to 22 of the Uganda Public Standing Orders and what is required. And we have suspended payments until we do our internal review to ensure that everything is well aligned. And Madam Chair, we expect that we shall conclude this within the next 2 weeks.
When was that letter written?
It was written on the 11th of February, 2026, Madam Chair.
Okay, anyway, it's a step taken. JB, can you please speak the document?
Madam Chair, I beg to lay the letter on that subject matter.
Honorable members, we go to 1.64 physical infrastructure. 1.64 physical infrastructure underpins the operation efficiency and institutional image of an organization. These include buildings, staff residence, communication facilities, and logistical assets necessary for efficient operation. Now, the auditor noted that several missions are housed in inappropriate structures, while others struggle to get accommodation in decent environments because of budget limits. The ministry does not have a blueprint of how it plans to house its missions, and it's largely been left to the availability of funds and the agility of the mission heads. Inappropriate structures may increase security threats, risk exposure, and dent the country's image, which the missions are trying to promote. PS, as we do respond to this query, some time back in Parliament, we were told that the country intends to restructure in form of reducing the number of missions that we do have, and to intentionally, strategically open up new missions in those countries that, where we need the missions. That is it. It's about restructuring and closing where we feel we are not making business sense, diplomatic sense in where we are staying. As you respond to this query, also update us on how far you've gone in that restructuring or amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, it is true, as you see from the observation of the auditors, we prepared a cabinet memorandum titled Status of Uganda's Diplomatic Properties Abroad under the management of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. This paper was presented to address the very issues that the auditors have pointed out. In that paper, Madam Chair, we sought Cabinet's concurrence that in some countries where, to the extent possible, government of Uganda should acquire property using a rent-to-own strategy and or mortgages. Because as you'll appreciate, we've been renting property for over 30 years in some places. And if we had pursued or acquired a mortgage, government of Uganda would have owned a lot of property. Now, a strategy to facilitate the implementation of the cabinet decision on properties was developed, and we've had preliminary discussions with the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. And once we conclude the discussions, certainly that's a matter that is going to come to Parliament to see if indeed we can pursue a rent-to-own policy, because that's like oil mortgages. And as you'll appreciate, a mortgage is like a loan, and therefore parliamentary approval is extremely important. But we've had discussions with the Ministry of Finance, and the discussions are positive. Madam Chair, on the directive by Cabinet that we restructure, we have prepared a Cabinet paper. We are waiting for us to be put on the order paper to go and have that discussion. But otherwise, we are prepared for the proposals and our propositions where we think in some missions where we get less, we'll retire those ones and relocate in capitals where it makes economic sense for Uganda to be.
Yes, Honorable Bangura.
Madam Chair, when you look at the missions without properties, this is almost going to half of the missions that we have. Here, the missions are Algiers, Khartoum, Berlin, Rome, Geneva, Moscow, Riyadh, Ankara, Tehran, Tokyo, Beijing, Kuala Lumpur, New Delhi, Doha, Launda, and Havana. This is almost all the missions. P.S. I think let's take this seriously. Like you've talked of restructuring, let this be moved up quickly such that, but now the world is opening up. We have just been inconvenienced by the war that is taking place in the Middle East. We are yet to feel the heat, but I know it is going to start. So we would be looking at opening up new avenues and opportunities that can replace or can hand in hand support us in such circumstances. The Middle East has been one of our partners in terms of trade and so on. So if that war takes long, where shall we go? So in the interest of restructuring, I also thought such wars that have come up would interest you and they create opportunities and avenues for us to expand and maybe improve even, first of all, in our African continent before we go beyond. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable colleague. PS, I think you take note of that. But sorry to take you back a little on the issue of the education allowances. Much as you are undertaking a review, also consider the rates. The complaints were simply too many about the amount that you do pay in terms of per diem. You know, it is too low compared to the actual that is spent in the countries that they stay in.
Madam Chair, I'm laughing or smiling because we took that to cabinet, and what we got was advice to reduce the missions. We took that to cabinet to argue that the rates are low, as you put it, and we thought that it would get cabinet's consideration. But unfortunately, we advised that we might as well reduce the missions. So we made but I agree with you, because we pay $2,500 US for a student, for a parent with a child in the UK. That's very extremely low at whatever level, whether it's primary or elementary. It's quite a low contribution that we are making.
And how can a discussion on rates be how is it coordinated in any way to reducing the emissions? Because even if you reduce the emissions, the rate will be there. You see. So yes, we understand they are taking a step to reduce the emissions, but I mean we must speak about the rate. Whether the emissions are few or not, that is not in any way related to the number of the emissions. Reduce them, but the rate must be favorable. You know, honorable colleagues, we have made Ugandans in the diaspora, I mean, suffer. You know, it's as if they are in Katanga. Find somebody is in UK, is in Washington, but they behave as if they are in Katanga because you have compromised their lifestyle. And you are speaking about diplomacy. These are diplomats, wherever they are. They represent our country. So our colleagues are suffering that side. So PS, for me, I think we're going to push it in our report. I mean, reduction of embassy, the restructuring in the number of embassies is not in any way connected to the rate that is given as as allowances to these that occupy these offices. It's not related in any way. And the other thing we are looking at as a consolidated approach is to making public service more attractive. The salaries are low, leave the missions abroad, but for you people who are in the ministries, if I asked any of you, if they run an advert of in a job in public service and they disclose that the so-called consolidated salary of 1.2 million, of 800 to some of our colleagues in local governments, if they don't tell you that, you don't care. When you get the 1.5, there are other additionals. You can bypass here and get some money. Indirectly, we are promoting corruption. So we must make public service more attractive, give us a remuneration that is worth somebody working in public service, and then we shall enforce. You cannot speak about corruption when we with this kind of payments. Actually, for me, honorable colleagues, when somebody says corruption in public service, this is something that we've structured. It is part of the system.
But
by you having some of these, you are promoting it. Yes, honorable.
No, but Chair, on the contrary, if a parastatal or institution advertises, you can hardly get somebody from public service to come and ask for